Dear church, let's talk adoption with Lindsy Bailey. Dear church, let's talk Holy Spirit, transformation, prayer.
6 days, right?
And if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Our culture wants to define you by your sexuality. We know that our identity is now Christ. Let's talk adoption with Lindsy Bailey. Hello and welcome to the Dear Church podcast. I'm your host, Chris McCurley, joined today by, Lindsay, I say this every week, my good friend, but we have never met. This is our first time seeing each other, but you come with a reputation that precedes you, and I'm so glad that you took time out of your schedule to join us today. Hey, before we dive into our conversation, tell us a little bit about you. I know you're coaching at Lebanon, Missouri, but talk about you, your family, anything that we need to know about Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on today. If you hear any background noise, that's because I'm in the middle of my workday here at Lebanon High. It's what I have enjoyed doing for my entire life, and so I'm very thrilled to be able to give back a little bit in that way. But I'm first and foremost, I'm a Christian. That's my biggest blessing in life. I am married. I've been married, I believe, 15 years now. Close to that, something like that. I've got 6 kiddos. 2 of them are biological kids, and 4 of them are an adopted sibling group. I did not get them all at the same time. We don't typically introduce them that way, but for the purpose of this podcast, I think it's beneficial, and it's something that is very. It's a huge part of our life. It is our life. So I'm very grateful. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of people who have helped us along the way. And I'm happy to be here and happy to share a little bit of what we've done.
Yeah. And so you're a PE teacher there at Lebanon, so you coach as well.
I do. Yes. I've worked with the varsity basketball team. I help with middle school track also. I've got a middle schooler. So that kind of helps close that gap on all the activities that we have going on.
And you have some connections to Southwest Missouri, where I was at for 4 years in Cassville. Talk a little bit about that. The Hillcrest congregation, good folks there, John Deffenbaugh, Danny Boggs. Talk a little bit about that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up there. I spent all my elementary and high school time there, and I was very thankful for the church there growing up. They had a lot of youth things that we could be involved in, and between youth activities, playing sports, and working a part-time job, that kept me pretty busy during high school, and they've always supported me. The congregation there, my parents always made sure we got to church, and I could not be more grateful for that congregation. In fact, I talked to a couple of my friends this morning and told them we were doing this podcast, and they thought that was a really cool thing. So I've always had good support from there.
That is neat. Yeah, so you were introduced to me through a mutual friend, and I'm always looking for exciting, interesting guests, and so I'm thankful that you took time out of your schedule to be with us today to talk about something that I don't have any adopted children, but adoption is near and dear to me, and I know of a lot of folks that have adopted. And I wanted to have you on because you are someone that is an advocate for that, and also someone who has, dedicated much of your adult life to adoption, fostering, and talk a little bit about the reason for that. You said you have 2 biological children, 4 that are a sibling group that you adopted. Talk a little bit about, what went into that decision between you and your husband.
Well, I have to say, originally it came from, I went with the Hillcrest congregation on 4 different mission trips to Honduras. And if you've ever been on a mission trip, you know that everyone wants to pack one of those kids in their bag and bring them home. They're so cute. Yes. They just love you, especially with blonde, fine hair. They just want to touch you, and that you can't hardly talk to them, but they're so sweet. And that's always stuck in my brain, that I really wanted to bring one of those kids home, and I wanted to make a difference in their lives. And I didn't know how to do that from Honduras. But what I did know how to do was do it here in the States, closer to home. So when my husband Chance and I got married, it's a conversation that we just always had, and we were really open with it. And I preferred to do it first. In fact, I almost feel selfish bringing kids into the world when there's so many souls that I know are going to go to heaven or hell one day.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
I've been told that's a little bit of not backwards thinking, but it is kind of a far reach thinking. But that's truly how I felt. These souls are already here. Let's do something about it. So
Sure.
the compromise was that my husband wanted to have some of ours first. So we did
Yeah.
that. And I knew that the commandment of James 1:27, that while I was a parent and in that parenting mode, I could not go to the prisons. I could not do those things. Maybe I could, but it would be less in my wheelhouse at the current moment. But right now, what I can do is make a difference in other kids' lives while I have kids, while we're kind of in that stage. So that's kind of how we came to it, and the compromises that we made.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's really a great story. So you had your two children, and how old were they when you decided to adopt?
Well, we started with the Missouri foster care situation. It's not a situation, but that's where we started, was the Missouri foster care. And we started bringing kids into our home, just plain and simple.
Okay.
We took the
Yeah.
classes, and we knew that eventually we would like to adopt, but we just knew that if we could give one kid 1 hour of love, 1 hour of safe place, if that's all we could ever do, and we decided this is not for us, then we've done what we've been commanded to do, and we gave it our effort, our full effort. We've done much more than that, but that's kind of how we started, with that mindset of one kid, 1 hour of love and safety. And what can we do from there? Is it something we can
Yeah.
do? Is it something we don't, we're not interested in?
So you kind of dipped your toe into the water of it and realized,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we can handle this. And so the next step was to perhaps go through the adoption process. Talk about some of the challenges, because I hear from parents who adopt that it really is pretty rigorous. Is that true?
It is. You have to become a foster parent, you have to go through all the classes. That alone is it's a lot of information. It's overwhelming. Um, you don't know what the next steps are. And people are asking
Yeah.
you, maybe you've got a kid in your home and you bring them to church, and everybody's so great to ask about them. And, well, when do you get to keep them?
Yeah.
Maybe never. We don't,
Yeah.
you don't know the next step in the process for the most part. That is hard. The
Yeah.
unknowing, the unknown, just the scheduling. You'll have people coming into your home to make sure you've got kind of I call them the obnoxious things that you probably should have, but like the proper fire extinguisher, making sure your carbon monoxide is available and working, making sure you have your guns locked up, making sure you have your medicine locked up. So, those are just different things that are, I call them annoyances, just because
Right.
typical people don't do them, but it's something that you just do to be safe.
Yeah. And so when you launched out into adopting, you said that this is a sibling group. So there's
Mhm.
four siblings that you adopted,
Yes.
and you said that you didn't get them all at once. Walk us through that and how that went.
Sure. So we'd had a couple foster kids in and out of the home, and then we got a call on a 1-year-old and a 4-day-old baby. And
Okay.
there was a health concern with the baby that the mom potentially could have passed down to the baby. So I called my aunt, who is a pediatric nurse, and just asked her, like, how serious, what are we looking at here? And she told me that the likelihood of the things being passed down would be very low, although it was a possibility. So my husband and
Yeah.
I talked about it, we prayed about it, and we picked that 4-day-old up from the hospital. Um, and we were actually at different points. The 1-year-old came first, and then we picked up the 4-day-old the next day at the hospital. So we got the two. Their names are Holland and Jubal.
Wow.
So they're a part of our family now. And from that point on, we had multiple other kids in and out of the house. We thought we were done. We had 4 kids. We shut down our license. We were happy, healthy, just working through the daily life of that anybody does. And then we
Right.
got a call on the 3rd kiddo. And again, fast forward later, we had gotten a call on the 4th kiddo. So we had 2 that were ended up being adopted at the same time. We had the 3rd one come to us, then the 4th, and the last 2 ended up being adopted together also. The state put the cases together, and that worked out really nicely for us. So
Yeah.
really what
Yeah.
happened was we adopted the first 2 kiddos. That mom continued having babies, and so we were the first call. Now we had the opportunity to say no.
Gotcha.
So that's a nice thing to know too, as people get into this, is knowing that you do actually have the opportunity to say no. We felt like we
Yeah.
were in a place where we could say yes, and we'd never give any of them back. So, yep,
Yeah,
that's
for
kind of how
sure.
we got them all.
And are you still fostering even, with the 6 children that you have now?
Right. We are not currently fostering. However, there has been a case where there was a student at the high school that we stepped in and helped out for a little bit, for a time,
Yeah.
until she needed more help than what we could give. And we always tell all our kids that our number one goal is to keep them safe. And
Yeah.
so if I can't keep them safe, then I've got to, move them on somewhere where they can be safe. We've also had that mom has actually had more kiddos that have been placed in our home for a time, and she has them
Yeah.
back in her care, which
Okay.
is another thing to keep in mind if this is a route a person would want to choose, is that reunification with the parent is always the number one goal. Whether
Okay.
that's our goal, or whether that's what we know to be the best thing or not. So
Yeah.
those 2 kiddos are back with bio mom, which makes it is a challenge for my kiddos because that is their biological mom and they know that. So
Yeah.
that's something that we work through and we talk through, and they really do pretty well with it. But as you can imagine, that's hard.
Yeah. And so there is a relationship there with the biological mother with the 4 that you adopted.
Well, I not between them. I
Okay.
have told them that if mom shows that she is safe, then we are open for that. We have made some
Yeah.
attempts to get with mom to do that, but they have not been successful attempts.
Gotcha.
So again, that's another thing we just keep praying about, and hoping that the Lord will really fill those gaps for us, because it's messy. I mean, you know how it is raising kids without all of that trauma, and
For
it's
sure.
messy.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone's contemplating adoption and they ask you, "Hey, Lindsay, you've done this. What advice can you give me? Because I don't even know where to start."
Sure.
What would you say?
The biggest thing that they need to decide is, do they want to do it here locally in the States, or do they want to
Right.
do it domestic? And both have their pros and cons. And I think
Yeah.
you're fulfilling a huge part of the Lord's command by doing any of it. Um, but that would be
Yeah.
the first thing, is to figure out whether you want to do that or not. Both of those cost money. It costs money just to even do the paperwork.
Yeah.
From then, you would want to pick what agency you want, because they're not all the same. Some of them are scams. Some of you
Oh,
really have to do your research. And you
okay.
don't have to go too far into a deep dive of it to find some things that have been a scam. However,
Yeah.
there are some good Christian sites out there, but just do your research. From then, if you don't want to do the adopting, like maybe you want to go the route we went, which was fostered to adopt within your state, you really just need to get with your Department of Social Services. They can tell you exactly what to do. You'll have to take some classes, and those classes. They'll try to work with your schedule to get you into those classes. You have to be 21 years of age. You have to be able to pass a background check. Kind of all the typical things that you would expect maybe out of like a classroom teacher. So those were the biggest things that I would say tactically you need to do. Aside from
Yeah.
that, you really have to prepare your heart. I can't tell you how many good hearted people have been very discouraging. And if my husband and I would have listened to them, we never would have done any of the stuff that we've done. We wouldn't have any of these kids in our home. And even to this day, there are people that are so supportive and will do anything for you. And there are people that are just really discouraging.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
preparing your heart ahead of time is a huge piece of it also.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about the cost. That was a question I had for you.
Mhm.
Is it cost prohibitive? I mean, do you mind giving me a number of, kind of what the average adoption costs?
F I don't know the current to date, but I do know when we were looking into it, we actually, had started with a private adoption agency, and I just didn't like at work here, they have the saying, "If it just doesn't look right, say something." Well, this just didn't
Yeah.
feel right. I don't think they were a bad agency, they just weren't the right fit for us.
Yeah.
But as we were going through that process at that time, and this was probably 10 years ago, it was at least $10,000, and that's stateside.
Yeah.
Now, that's a lot of money. We could get in, you could get into a debate about whether that's a proper thing or not. But the way I look at
Yeah.
it is we're paying four times that for a decent car these days. And so if
True.
it's something that somebody really wants to do, there are people willing to help with that cost because there's a lot of people that
Yeah, for
can't do
sure.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And how difficult too is it, Lindsay, to have children in your home, not knowing if you will be able to keep them, or
Mhm.
just say you're fostering and you have them for. My mother-in-law was a foster parent for many years, and she would have these little infants for a year
Mhm.
and then release them, and that's got to be tough, right?
Yeah, it is tough. Um, there are kids that we will never forget. Sometimes we don't even remember their names, but we remember them by certain things. Like my husband had a baby that he helped feed, and we call her Chance's baby. And if we had a chance to keep her, we definitely would have. But again, going back to that, when we prepared our hearts, our goal was 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. We're giving them that love that they need. And if we don't do it, who's going to? And so we're teaching
Right.
them about Jesus. We're giving them that foundation. We're giving them that brain development that their bodies need. So going back to our goal was not to keep every kid that we could. It was to give them the
Yeah.
best portion of their life that they had with us. And so for us, even as hard as it hurts, we have always felt like we've done our best job.
Yeah. Yeah, it was worth it in the end, is what you're saying.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, no matter how difficult that it may be. Yeah, talk a little bit, Lindsay, about this. You mentioned it a while ago that some can be very supportive and some can be very discouraging. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit about what people can do to be supportive of parents like yourself.
Sure. That is a great question, and that is something that we at different times, we have been so overwhelmed with encouragement, and there's been times we've been so overwhelmed with discouragement. So, the best ways that people can serve is financially. If someone is going to adopt, without the foster care system, it is going to cost money. So
Yeah.
they are going to need some help getting a little bit of money. It might cost travel for them. Maybe it's a gift card for when they're traveling to go visit that kiddo. Um,
Yeah.
a welcome home gift, a welcome home meal. I know that like, for instance, in our congregation, we celebrate babies being born so well. That is something that is done very well.
Sure.
Now, when an adoption happens, is that done the exact same way? And I would beg to say that it's a little different. So I would call out
Yeah.
to churches that if someone in your congregation is going through that, to really make it special for them, the same as you would for a baby, because it does really matter to them. Another thing would be just praying for them, sending them notes of encouragement, and just letting them know you're in their corner, you're in their camp, and that you're proud of them. Because again, you know how hard it is to raise normal kids, and when you add
Yeah.
layers of trauma, it just becomes a bit more difficult at times.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of the reasons, one of the major reasons why, maybe besides cost, why so many people don't choose adoption is because of the potential problems that come along with the child, whether it be, you know, born to a mother who's an addict, or
hmm
these potential problems that will come with. You think that's a big reason?
Yeah, I think it's all unknown and scary. And
Yeah.
if we're living in fear, it's scary. But if we're living in faith and we have that conviction, then we know we can do it. And the Lord gives you the tools and the resources through your community, and through other people that you don't even know that you've needed at the time. Our mutual friend that
Right.
that sent me to you with this podcast, she's
Uh,
she's a blessing to me. And just talking with her, the encouragement that she's been able to give me. So she was a tool for me, and she probably doesn't even realize that. So
yeah.
my encouragement to people would be, it's messy. It's messy. Anything dealing with any child is messy. Working here at the high school, it's messy because we're dealing
Yeah.
with imperfect humans, and I'm grateful that people invest in me. And so therefore I would like to do the same for other people.
Yeah, and you've said that a few times, and I like the way you phrased that, and I'm glad you said it. Is that it's messy because, in ministry, we see the person who overcomes addiction or the problems in like past sin, and they thrive and they become a preacher, or an elder, or whatever, and those success stories are not the norm, and you
Yeah.
wish that they were, but they're
Yeah.
not. And it's the same when it comes to anything in life, but I'm sure adoption is the same way, is that there's issues, there's problems, you work through them, but
Yeah.
in the end, you just pray that it's worth it. And I think what I hear you saying overall in this entire conversation is that our faith is the driving factor in all this. Am I correct?
It is. It's kingdom work. And kingdom work um, is not a pretty packaged bow. And I think sometimes in the
Yeah.
church, that's what we would prefer, is we would love that little
Yeah.
packaged gift that we just hand to people. And that's
Yeah.
just not the reality of most situations. And so it's kingdom work. This is just a piece of all the kingdom work we have to do. And if a person is not able to foster or adopt, there are just so many ways to help, and being supportive and open-minded to it is the biggest thing. Not being discouraging, as with all things with kingdom work, being an encourager and
Right.
not a discourager is key.
Yeah, I love that. It's hard enough, right? We don't need outside forces making it even
Right.
more difficult. So,
Yeah.
Lindsay, tell us how we can keep in touch with you, and is there a way to follow you? And your life. Do you do a blog? Do you do a social media? What can we do to keep up with you?
I'll be honest, I'm a pretty low key person. If you ever come to Lebanon, Missouri, you just come find me. I
Yeah.
I do have a Facebook page, Lindsay Bailey. I've got an Instagram page, but and you can find pictures of my family on there. So if you want to reach out to me, I've had lots of people reach out to me through the years, just asking questions on things they can do, or we talk and we bounce ideas off each other, because you've got to work together and find those people that can help you. But I'm a pretty low key person. I'm not an influencer. I'm just someone trying to get to heaven and get as many people as I can with me. So
Yeah, you've got plenty to keep you occupied too, so you probably don't have a lot of time to do all that other stuff. Well, I do want to tell our viewers and listeners that if you have a question about today's episode, you can email me at chris.mccurley@rippleoflight.com. And if you have a specific question for Lindsay, we will forward that on to her, and she would, I'm sure, be willing to answer any questions that you might have. And Lindsay, I
absolutely.
just thank you for being on today. Thank you for sharing your story, and it's a great story. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so thankful.
Absolutely. And thank everyone for tuning in. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Chris. That's it, Lynn.